From the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., the Congressional Report, with your host, Iowa Congressman Tom Latham.
This country is based on farms, on small businesses, and creating jobs and opportunities. That is the lifeblood of this nation.
And now your host, Congressman Tom Latham.
Hello, welcome to the Congressional Report. Government has a sacred duty to provide for public safety and the security of the people. Police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and other first responders perform vital tasks that keep our communities and our citizens safe. That's why it's important that public safety officials receive the best training and equipment we can provide them. Iowans should be proud to learn that Iowa Central Community College in Fort Dodge boasts a state-of-the-art Homeland Security Training Center, where law enforcement and public safety officials can develop their skills using the latest training techniques and equipment. The program features a growing list of courses and training opportunities on a wide variety of subjects, including fire safety, disease response, and terrorism preparedness. The training center strengthens law enforcement and enhances public safety for so many communities, and it's imperative that we provide the Homeland Security Training Center with the resources it needs to continue to flourish. Joining me today on the Congressional Report is Mike Burke, Director of the Iowa Central Community Homeland Security Training Center. Thank you for joining us, Mike, and welcome. It's nice to have you here in Washington. I understand you're here for some meetings, and this is a great opportunity for folks at home to learn more about what's going on in Fort Dodge. And,
Absolutely. We're happy to be here.
Well, great. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. How did you become the director there?
I started at the college in '98 after spending about 10 years in law enforcement. I used to work narcotics, and I started, as I said, at the college in 1998. I started a criminal justice program there. The college received some funding to start up, with your assistance, the Homeland Security Training Center back in 2003. So I was told that they just wanted me to start the program. I would go back teaching a year later. So 6 years later, we're here training a bunch of responders in Iowa.
Oh, great. Why don't you give us kind of an idea of the different programs that are offered at the Homeland Security Training Center there in Fort Dodge?
Initial, and we still provide that initial training under Presidential Directives 5 and 8. There was a requirement for responders of multiple disciplines, whether it be fire, both professional and volunteer professional firefighters, EMS personnel, were required to take certain courses to become eligible for certifications. We provided that initially in conjunction with the State of Iowa Homeland Security Office throughout the state of Iowa. We continue to do that type of training, the compliancy training, the incident command training, the awareness type trainings, the public information officer type trainings. We continue to provide those, and we've actually seen where a lot of that training has paid off. There's been some disasters in Iowa that the responders had to respond to, implementing the incident command system, and we were fortunate enough to get to those people prior to that disaster, get them trained, and that helped with that recovery.
So it's not just about terrorist attacks, it's about floods and tornadoes and everything else.
Absolutely.
To have the first responders be able to communicate with each other and respond on a unified basis.
Correct.
Yeah. Who gets all the training? And, where do they get the training?
Our approach is pretty unique for every training center, and I'm not sure if there's any in the nation that does this, but we actually take the training to their back door. They will call our training center, and it could be a 3 or 4 day notice. We have a cadre of instructors, and we cooperate with places like the Fire Service Training Bureau in Ames, Iowa, with the utilization of some of their instructors. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're using assets that we already have in Iowa to do a lot of that training.
What's the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response or training or alert program?
The alert program is one of the national consortium members through Texas State University. We are Iowa Central is part of the Rural Domestic Preparedness Consortium, and instead of, again, wasting a lot of money reinventing a wheel, that curriculum was already there. It's already been developed. It's a very good curriculum. We had those individuals from Texas, the national members, come up and do a train the trainer for about 48 to 50 law enforcement officers in Iowa. Since that time, we've funded those trainees that have been trained as trainers to go out and provide this training statewide. So what the course actually consists of, it's a really down and dirty course on the realities for patrol officers. Because a lot of those school disasters that happen, the SWAT teams are dispatched, but the response time could be, 20, 25 minutes up to 2 hours of response time. So we're actually training the boots on the ground people that'll be the first officers on the scene how to respond to those types of disasters.
I had the opportunity to visit one of those training sessions, and it was certainly amazing and so very real of the way it was done, and professionalism is just absolutely incredible. But so these individuals came up from Texas up to Iowa and did the training for the local law enforcement up there.
Correct.
Okay.
We actually did 2 train the trainer sessions. We did one in Fort Dodge, which I believe that was the one you attended. And after that, in November of last year, we did another train the trainer in Iowa City with the University of Iowa law enforcement, public safety people, and also Iowa City PD.
Is the Homeland Security Training Center in Fort Dodge, is that unique to Iowa, or are there other training centers like that across the country, or how does that work?
I think we're pretty unique in the aspect of we're taking assets that are already there. I don't feel a big need to develop a bunch of other curriculums that are already there. We take it, we Iowanize some of the training to make it relevant to Iowa responders, and then we get it out the door as quick as possible.
How many people have you trained so far?
Close to it's right over, I just checked this morning, it's over 26,000 people in Iowa. 26,000
people in Iowa. Wow. That is an amazing number, and you do an awful lot of good work. How do the first responders actually sign up or enroll for programs, or do you reach out to the different agencies, or how does that work?
We actually do a lot of things with the state Homeland Security directors. And the emergency management coordinators for each county. In Iowa, there's 99 counties. We're kind of the household name at this point. Not a lot of marketing has to be done. They'll call us. We also developed a website, iowarespondertraining.com, that they can go to and find out what training's going on in their Homeland Security region in Iowa. We also work with the University of Iowa Public Health and their Preparedness Bureau. They have quite a few trainings going on, so we let them put that information on our training site. So that's that one-stop shop for responders in Iowa they can go to.
Well, what does it cost? I mean, do the individuals getting trained, or does the government entity, the local community, do they have to pay for the training?
Absolutely not. It's free. We'll bring it to their back door. That's what's unique about us. They don't have to travel to Des Moines. They don't have to travel, to the Omaha area. We'll actually take their trainings to the small fire departments in rural Iowa.
Well, have you added new programs or new training just recently to the program?
We have. The alert training's relatively new. We've held about 10 sessions since last August, actually 2-day courses. We have some more coming up here in the next couple of weeks. As part of the consortium, we are required each year to develop a couple of different curriculums. Next month, we should have our first course certified by the Department of Homeland Security. It's a public information officer course. It's a 4-hour course about how the responders have to deal with the media during a disaster.
Which is a big job.
It is a big job.
To get all the information. Do you have any plans for additional new programs as far as what you're looking at in the future besides the great work you've done?
We are looking to expand upon the active shooter training that we do. There are advanced levels of trainings, and we're looking in and working again with our partners in Texas at Texas State University to provide us with those assets and quality instruction so we can get those people in Iowa trained.
Yeah, the thing that I'm most impressed with the program there is that, like you mentioned earlier, you don't try to reinvent the wheel. You actually get out and train people. I know there's some have served on the Homeland Security Subcommittee on Appropriations, and we have funded some regional and national programs, and they still seem to be bogged down trying to figure out what the program should be and try to make everybody happy. In the meantime, you've trained 26,000 people in Iowa, and which I'm very, very proud of myself. When you start a program, I suppose it varies by the program itself, but how long does it take someone to get through it? Is it an ongoing situation, or are you going for a weekend, or?
It's 7 days a week. We might have trainings going on. This last weekend we had 11 trainings going on in the state, because a lot of these responders are volunteers, and we have to take the training to them when it's allowable to them. Sometimes we're out there till doing a 6 o'clock at night till 10 o'clock at night training scenario somewhere in Iowa. And it's as the trainings come up and as they're made available to us as a training center, we get them out the door as quick as possible. We put it on the front doorstep and say, if you want it, give us a call, we'll provide it.
Yeah. So where do you get your money? How do you pay for all this activity?
With a lot of your help. You've been extremely instrumental in starting the program, and we truly appreciate it. And the responders in Iowa truly appreciate your support.
Well, it's been a great cooperative effort, and to see the results are what really is gratifying. I think to everyone who's aware of the great work that you're doing. What are the most popular types of programs or training sessions that the first responders want to take?
I guess the biggest one lately is the active shooter training. The nice thing is we've taken some of the existing trainings in incident response to terrorist bombings, and we've actually cooperated with the State Fire Marshal's Office and their bomb technicians, and they've actually went out and done that training for us. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone. We're getting those bomb technicians that if they're ever called to somewhere in Iowa to look at a device, they already have a face with a name with a lot of those responders. So that's been a very successful course. And again, the active shooter has been...
on the active shooter program, why don't you kind of explain exactly what that is? I mean, with the school hostage situation was the scenario that when I was there. But tell us exactly what they're learning, and how do you go about training these people?
What they learn, it's a 16-hour course, 2 days in length. The first day is about a half a day of classroom, just giving them the history of an active shooter program. There are other programs out there that charge the departments for this type of training, and again, we're bringing all the equipment to them free of charge. The first day is, again, the first half day is only classroom. Then they go on to simulated type trainings in the afternoon of the first day, just with rubber guns. And the final day that's when we actually test them. A full day of going through different hostage type situations. And these are the officers that are going to be the first responders, saving our children from some type of homicide. And we set them through a variety of different, with the improvised explosive devices, the hostage situation like you mentioned, one shooter or multiple shooters, and showing them how to go in and just take care of that situation quickly, as fast as possible.
Well, on the local level, I mean, and it was an incredible show that you put on, and I could tell the amount that these people had learned in just a two-day session like that, because and you're very critical of because it could cost somebody their lives if they make the wrong move in that type of situation. They're there to protect each other, but most certainly to make sure that hostage survives and that other innocent people aren't injured or killed. But where do you find the instructors? I know you're kind of like in the business of instructing the instructors. Where do you find all these people?
We put up a rubric when we first started, and we asked the experts, the individuals from Texas that have been doing this type of training for years, and they gave us a kind of a set basis. They've had to be a training officer with their department. They've had to have experience with firearms training, also be involved with tactical type responses. So we're finding those, and again, we have huge assets in Iowa. It's amazing, we have those type of quality officers we have in Iowa. To equip them with the knowledge and go out and train these other officers that are on the road.
Well, just generally in Iowa, and you talk about the assets that we have, the resources. How well are we prepared in Iowa overall, do you think? I mean, natural disasters for these type of, say, hostage situation, terrorist type of attacks. Are we there yet, do you think, or where?
It's a work in progress. It is a work in progress. There's always that changing threat, but we are prepared. And I think that the more training we can get out there to these responders, and better prepare them to respond if they're called upon. That's where we need to be, and I think we're getting there.
One example I think of that is the Parkersburg tornado situation, and where we had scores of local first responders that came into Parkersburg. And something to learn from, I think, was the trying to set up the command and control to get everybody knowing what they needed to do in that disaster scenario. So how does that work? You're training these people to get this the command and control set up to get everybody dispatched to the right place. How do you do that?
Actually, that was one of our person that responded is one of our trainers, Mitch Nordmeyer, from Northeast Iowa. He actually trained those people about 6 to 8 weeks prior to that tornado coming through in the incident command system, which is one of the presidential directive and NIMS requirements. And talking with some of those firefighters and those people that responded, that was very instrumental in helping them. I mean, it's a devastating event. I mean, and once they kind of catch their wind, they realized that they had to set some things up, and they got it done. And what a heck of a turnout! And that just shows what Iowans will do for Iowans.
It was almost a case where there was so much help available, they weren't quite sure what to do with all the help. And,
absolutely.
And I think it took a little bit of time anyway to finally get everything coordinated, to get everybody out there and searching homes and to know what was needed to be done. So what's the future for the center? Do you see it growing, or are you to the point where you're not going to need any more funding? Or
no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that will be the case. We're going to move forward.
I'm shocked. I'm really shocked.
We're going to move forward and actually taking some of the classroom training that we provided over the last few years and make it into reality. We have a training site. It's about a 10-acre training site we're developing at the college with a fire tower. And there's other scores of assets and props that we're going to be placing down there. So we're taking it from the classroom and making it a reality for a lot of these responders.
You know, one part of this that, natural disaster, terrorist attacks, but things, disease outbreaks, things like that. What are you doing in that area? We've been through this H1N1 flu virus, but what is there a monitoring system out there? Is there a system in place for reporting, say, some kind of a disease outbreak?
Iowa Public Health has done a wonderful job with that. There's also training. One of the other community colleges in Iowa, Kirkwood Community College, we coordinate with them on training deliveries and some training development. They've covered that pretty well. They have a national course out there, and again, from Iowa, it's a national course. The foot and mouth disease course, the egg terror course, and also an avian influenza course also they have. So we're training those responders in Iowa on that course, but they're actually going out in the nation and training a lot of that also.
Did you coordinate with the veterinarians and all of this as far as monitoring like animal diseases, or is that's all part of the system? That's
part of the training we'll provide, but the actual monitoring part, our training center does not.
Right. And that's a big part of when you like the hoof and mouth and things like that potentially could be out there. Is very important that we do have the communication lines set up and that people are aware out in the rural areas. That's why we need more vets too around in the rural parts of the state. Are there any other national training initiatives that you're involved with, or I know that Eastern Kentucky, there's
we're a member of the RDPC. It stands for the Rural Domestic Preparedness Consortium. And there's 5 other agencies along with Eastern Kentucky. That's kind of our mothership. We're involved with them to the aspect of we develop a curriculum. We provide instruction for one curriculum a year to get that developed through the Department of Homeland Security. It's a long process. It's about an 18-month process to get a curriculum developed. So we're also involved, and we're hopefully going to take a more initiative role with EKU to provide training and be one of the delivery mechanisms to get this training out the door.
How did the Iowa Central get into this business to be the center for the training, and is that obviously it's been very, very successful, but
How did we get started?
How did you get started?
Actually, it was your office that truly helped. I was contacted by our government affairs individual, and he said, we want you to stand up this training center. And again, he said 1 year, and then you can go back teaching. And
we're still there?
And we're still there.
But are there real advantages to having it at Iowa Central there in Fort Dodge?
I think it's a huge advantage because, being a responder myself and having that background, making it a reality that these people can get this quality of training at their back door. For years, you know of trainings going on, and a lot of these departments don't have a training budget or very little training budget. We're actually going to be able to take that to their back door in a timely manner. They don't have to wait 20 weeks or 30 weeks out. Some training centers are like that. We have to schedule months and months in advance. And I was just unique that way. There's certain times that these individuals are busy. The farmers are busy, at certain times of the year. And if they need training, a lot of those trainings take place in January and February when it's knee deep in snow, and we're out there doing that training. So,
and is it an advantage to be part of the community college system? I mean, you have, I think you use a lot of the resources all over the state as far as the community colleges.
Absolutely. They're all partners. I mean, there's competitors, but they're partners. And they, even at Iowa Central Community College and along with the other community colleges in Iowa, have seen a need for this training, and they've really welcomed it in their areas with open arms to provide this training.
What kind of, are you developing new technologies, or what type of, to get your message out, to get the training out, what kind of technologies do you use?
A lot of it's web-based, at this point. The website, which I told you is the IowaResponderTraining.com, we've also identified some other key players. And again, this is that evolution. They just keep evolving, where it might be power companies or somebody of that nature that might be called upon. And they've seen that in certain tornado-type situations where the gas and lights and dealing with those broken lines. They didn't understand the incident command structure. So we've identified some of those groups in Iowa we're targeting, and they're wanting this type of training we're providing. So we're kicking around some different ideas about a different website to make sure those private key players that will respond to a disaster are comfortable enough to go to the site. They're not technically the typical responder, but we're kicking around some ideas of how to get to them.
How about just the equipment, the simulations? What do you have available there?
We actually have 2 Milo ranges, and that's for the use of force simulations that we take around the state. And again, that's when we initially started the training center, which you helped us secure some of those funds for those simulators. And we take that, again, free of charge around the state of Iowa. Even through the Department of Corrections, we've provided that training for them.
Tell us about that. I mean, and I've seen or had tried it out, but you're standing there, you have almost like virtual reality, and you see different scenarios, people coming up to you. You don't know whether they're friendly or if they're hostile, and you have to make that split-second decision. What type of different scenarios do you have in that? Actually,
in the system currently, and again, we just did some training on it last week, there's 250 different scenarios that actually the college has developed some of them. We have some technology there that we can develop certain scenarios, and we have a request sometimes to say, we had this situation happen, we don't want it to happen again, but if it does, we want to make sure our officers, security officers or Department of Correctional officers or police officers are ready to respond. We'll film that type of scenario and put it onto the system. But there's a variety of different, whether it be armed suspect in a school homicide type situation, or domestic abuse type situation, numerous traffic stops, dealing with people that are armed. But it's also teaching officers, how to actually interact with somebody. The scenario will branch as the officer's responding to that person. As he's giving them orders, the instructor at the computer desktop can make that person do different things. So it's phenomenal technology.
Yeah, give an example of what, I mean, say you have a domestic abuse, hostile situation. What can they have them do, or how does it work? How does the officer actually learn, when to shoot, when not to shoot, what?
We go through the training, and again, the criminal justice students at the college utilize the system also. Okay. Most police officers with their department have an SOP, a standing operating procedure, of how to deal with use of force type issues. What this system does is actually engages them to verbalize with the potential suspect, whether it be a husband and a wife, battle. They go into the scenario as it's just happening. It just kind of unfolds, and husband and wife
can be chaos.
It's chaos, and we're trying to teach them how to do some verbal skills, some verbal judo, if you will, to diffuse the situation. If they're not doing a good job doing that, we just let the scenario continue to escalate to the point where they might have to use deadly force. And they learn very quickly that sometimes by giving certain orders, the situation will diffuse and it's a peaceful resolution. So it's a neat system.
Are there any other, and this is mobile, that you can take this system around?
Absolutely.
To different training sessions all around. Are there any unique kind of methods like that you have, or you do fire, you do law enforcement? And on the fire side, that we have so many great professionals, both career and volunteer firefighters in our state. That what do you focus on as far as training with specifically there?
With firefighters, and again with some of the funds you helped us receive, we purchased a Bullx fire extinguisher trainer, which I thought, wow, this is kind of a unique system. It deals with water and compressed air. And we use it to train CERT individuals, community emergency response training, for civilian-type training. But we've also identified other uses. One of our trainers had just taken it over to a elementary school in Webster City, and they trained 300 or 400 grade schoolers on how to actually use a fire extinguisher. So it was pretty phenomenal training. So there's other uses for those types of things.
That's very, very helpful. So do you have plans to expand outside of the state of Iowa, or right now we're...
Right now we're in Iowa, but we actually have people coming in from Illinois and Minnesota for a lot of these trainings.
Yeah. So, well, great. I really appreciate the great work that you and everybody at Iowa Central and throughout the state. Obviously, it's an absolutely critical issue that we have the best possible training for our first responders, that they're able to have the resources and the knowledge and the training to be successful, because it's a duty we have to make sure that we keep everyone as absolutely safe as possible, and you do a tremendous job of it, and I appreciate it very much.
I appreciate you. Without you, this wouldn't be here.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you, Mike, for being with us today.
You bet.
Iowa Central Community College's Homeland Security Training Center utilizes the latest training techniques to help our first responders prepare for the demands of their jobs. The training center is leading the way to develop and sustain public safety training in Iowa. The program prepares those who are tasked with keeping our communities safe for the challenges of today's world. This is essential work, and it's in our best interest to make sure the training center receives adequate funding and support so our communities can continue to benefit from its services. Again, I want to thank my guest, Mike Burke, and I hope you'll join me next time on the Congressional Report.
From the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., this has been the Congressional Report with Iowa Congressman Tom Latham. Have a question, comment, or concern? Congressman Latham wants to hear from you.